Daybreak introduces you this morning to Scott Tuason, and he is an award-winning marine wildlife photographer and has over 100 articles and magazine covers published all over the world, including the National Geographic magazine in Australia. He also has published books as well. We are going to talk about that. And Scott is here to talk about all his adventures and his beautiful photographs, which he will be showing with us today. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How are you doing?
So we were just talking before we went on air. So first of all, I've read a lot about you, and you have a very interesting background. For those that don't know and haven't heard about you, what do you do?
Well, right now I own a shop in the fort, which is a lifestyle shop called Squires Bingham Sports, and we sell all sorts of diving gear, underwater photography, imaging equipment.
Because your passion is in diving and photography underwater.
Yeah. We also sell firearms also.
What?
Which is the family business.
Okay.
And I also am on this, well, not really on the side, but in conjunction with the shop, I'm also a marine wildlife photographer.
Yes, and I know how many. I know that you've logged 4,000 dives. And you started at the very...
Who's counting? I don't really log dives,
I read about it, and that's what they said about you. And you have went diving all around the Philippines and around the world. So I know it's hard to pinpoint a favorite, but what would you say is your most memorable dive?
I mean, it's pretty hard to pinpoint that. One of the most memorable diving adventures that I've done is South Africa. When I did the sardine run, which is, they call it the greatest show on earth, which is when you have the migration of the sardines from on the eastern cape of South Africa moving up, and that's during winter in South Africa, which is June, July, and you've got millions of sardines migrating, and you've got like 6 different species of sharks, thousands of dolphins, gannet birds, whales, seals, everything under the sun just feeding on them, and it's just it's total chaos and mayhem underwater. And
you're in there with them.
One of the guys on the boat who took us out, he equated it to like sticking your face in the middle of a pride of lions feeding on a dead zebra or something. So and you're just like right in there.
Yeah, what do you feel? Are you afraid? Are you?
Nah, you just got so much adrenaline going through you that you just. Plus half the time my face is stuck on the viewfinder. You don't really see how really close everything really is.
They get to you, or if someone's actually coming to get you. But you mentioned sharks, and people are aware of what sharks are, and but what is it like when you get up close to these sharks and having to take photos of them? Well,
sharks are fish. They're just like any other fish in the ocean, really, and they look scary because they have big teeth, but sharks are one of the hardest animals to photograph because they really don't like to get close to people.
Right.
They're a big predator, and you're a big predator as well when you're underwater. You've got the tank, you've got bubbles coming out. I mean, they look at you and go, they're kind of scared of you. So it's really quite difficult to get photographs of sharks. They get a bad rap.
Yeah. And I know that you went underwater thousands of times by now. Was there ever a time where you were almost attacked or hurt by a creature or anything?
Probably a triggerfish. Really is probably the closest thing I've gotten to being hurt. I did have a shark bite my camera one time.
Okay.
But
what was that like?
Well, it was an accident because the camera that I'm using has strobes, which is basically a flash underwater, and it recycles. So when it recycles, it gives off an electrical charge. So sometimes the sharks confuse that with the electrical signals given off by their prey, right? So a shark just came up under and bit the handle of my camera.
Okay, well, good thing it was the camera.
I only had one hand on it. So,
exactly, right, okay. And, so you went diving in all these other countries and in the Philippines, all over the Philippines. What is, do you think the Philippines would be considered one of the best diving spots in the world?
Philippines is like smack in the middle of the Coral Triangle. So we have the most diverse marine ecosystem in the world. And the further away you go from the Philippines, either east, west, north, or south, the less number of species, you know. I mean, just for example, Palau, which is about 1,600 kilometers away to the east of us, they have half the number of species of fish. I'm not talking about density or biomass of fish, you know, because the Philippines is kind of fished out, you know, but I'm talking about the number of different species, you know, of fish, of shrimp, of you know, of everything, anything under the sun.
That's amazing to hear. Now I know that you started really young. So out of like all these years that you've been diving, probably back and forth in Tubataha
Yeah,
or the
I've
coral.
been going to Tubataha for 31
Tubataha.
years.
What is the difference? Do you see a huge difference in the marine
Well, okay, so
animals
the first time I
underwater?
went to Tubataha, I was 13 years old. And, you know, you're not that aware of things. So I have a hard time actually, I often look back and think, like, was it better back then or is it better now? It seems like it's better now.
Okay.
Right? But I'm more aware of things, of my surrounding and what's happening and all the different things that I'm seeing. You know, when I was 13 years old, you know,
You don't know what you're seeing.
you're happy to be there. It's nice water. It's, you
Right.
know, you get to see schools of fish and you see a shark and you're like, yeah.
But is there a decrease because of climate change and everything that's going on with the
Well,
ecosystem?
Tubataha did get a lot of pressure from overfishing at one point in the late 80s. You know, and then it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Okay.
And then since then it's been protected.
It's been
So
preserved. and
yeah,
protected.
I
Okay.
think it's getting better.
Okay, good.
Actually,
That's
yeah.
good to hear.
I mean, my last trip there was just probably one of the best trips I've ever had there.
I know you
Actually,
saw.
one of my best trips ever, anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, it was just.
I
epic.
saw photos of that, and you saw 9 or 10 whale sharks. Huge,
yeah,
huge, huge.
Yeah, and I had it cross-referenced with the whale sharks that are on the database of Oslob and Southern Leyte, and those sharks are not in their catalog. So it's good to know that that's a new group of whale sharks that have showed up there.
Oh, great. Why
Yeah.
is that, you think? I mean,
I think they're feeding.
okay.
There's at 30 meters there is a green layer of like probably a lot of plankton that's been pushed up by some kind of upwelling.
Right.
The water gets really cold.
So they're there to eat.
And I actually have a photograph of one of them feeding at that lower layer of water, you know, off the drop off. So
Okay.
I think they're feeding.
Now, I know that you probably don't know much because you said that since the grounding of the U.S. ship in the Tubataha Reef, people were not allowed to go to the area.
Yeah.
But have you heard anything about the area? Has it affected the diving spot in Tubataha?
Well, it's affected only one dive spot, and you know, in the whole scheme of things, we talk about climate change, we talk about, you know, overfishing, we talk about, you know, all the other destructive methods. You know, a boat running aground on a relatively small part of the reef, you know, that's not really going to affect.
Okay.
The
Now,
reef
also, I
much.
know that you have, because you're a great photographer, and most of your photos are now in coffee books, and I think you even won an award in one
Yeah.
of the books, Anilao.
Yeah,
That
and,
you-
in 2000.
Which is great.
co-authored with
Congratulations.
Eduardo Conhing, yeah.
And I know that you contribute some of these photos to the Worldwide Fund, and also you help out, or some efforts
Yeah,
to for the conservation of.
Conservation International, Reef Check, Greenpeace. The new one I'm working on is with Shark Savers Singapore.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and get to take photographs of celebrities with a cross around their lips, saying that they're not going to eat shark's fin.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So this is what you're working on now.
Yeah, I'm
No,
going to start working on
Let's
it.
not eat shark's fin.
Yeah.
So remember
yeah,
that,
that's
people.
a big, yes, my big things.
What else are the other things that people can do to help save the marine environment? Aside from not eating shark's fin.
Yeah, I mean, your choices of fish, you know, try and eat sustainable fish that are, you know, that, like I try and keep away from reef fish like lapu-lapu and snapper and everything, that fish that make their home on the reef, you know, and I try and eat things that are what they call pelagic, which are like in the open ocean, or like tuna and, you know, and stuff like that. But again, you know, it's also the way they catch tuna, you know, like
Right.
like one of the good things, like in General Santos, some of the people that do handline fishing for tuna is like, I think for me that's a great way you just target one species, as opposed to like people who use big, huge nets and just gobble up everything.
Right.
And there's
right.
so much wasted bycatch. And
Yeah, so it's the way that
it's
they
also the way,
go
the
fishing.
way you go fishing.
Yeah, so there should be some awareness for
Yeah,
people.
and of course simple things like throwing plastic
Yeah,
in the ocean, and
right. Well, okay, great. So this is one of the books that you have out now.
That's my new book. It just was published in December last year.
Okay, how many books do you have?
I think about 6.
6.
Yeah, but
And
some
they're
of them
like all over. The ones published in magazines are from all over the world. What about the books? Are they all found in the Philippines?
No, I've got several books that are only published. They're only available in the U.S.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I've got a series of tween books. Scientists in the field. I did Project Seahorse, which I shot in Bohol, and then The Dolphins of Shark Bay, which I shot in Australia.
Okay. And I know there's something going on in Donsol, is with the whales. I mean, with the sharks.
With the sharks,
I mean,
yeah.
Yes. Can you just maybe raise a bit of awareness as before we go?
Well, Donsol is it's a place that put the whale sharks on the Philippine map, right? The one that's got a little bit of controversy is Oslo,
Okay.
where they're actually feeding the whale sharks.
Oh, you're not
Yeah.
supposed to feed the whale sharks.
No, people feed sharks all over the world.
Okay.
That's how people get good photographs.
Oh, okay.
Because, like I said, sharks don't like to come to people, so.
Okay.
So a lot of places all over the world, if you want people to get good photographs of sharks, they feed them. So Oslo is kind of controversial, but they feed sharks all over the world. For me, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Except for the fact that they go up and beg to boats, right?
Right. That's interesting.
So
yeah.
if they leave Oslo and they go to other places, they might, be targeted because there's like begging to be.
Okay, so Oslo would be a good place to spot these sharks.
So Oslo is a great place, especially for people who don't really go out and look for whale sharks or whatever, who can't really get to Tubataha.
Right. Well, this is all the time that we have for now. I wish we could keep going.
All morning about this, but
I don't know, but thank you so much for
Thanks for
coming
having
in
me.
and chatting with us about all these amazing photos and your experience. Thanks again.
Yep, thank you.
And that was marine wildlife photographer Scott Tuason. Now, up next, we have Laguna Governor E.R. Ejercito will take his fight to stay in his post to the Supreme Court, and the Heat stops the Pacers in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals Game 2. Keep it here on the Solar News Channel.